Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to my recap of Season 13, Episode 5 of The Bachelorette. Before I jump into the details of this episode, I want to address a couple issues that have come up frequently in the comment section on YouTube and on Instagram. One of the questions that keeps coming up is whether Rachel prefers white guys. And it comes up on tonight's episode. Eric is talking to one of the other guys in the house, and he points out that Rachel has picked 5 guys for one-on-one dates, and of those 5, only one has been a black man, and that would be Will. They went horseback riding up and down Rodeo Drive. He sees that as a bad sign for him, as he is a black man. Honestly, I don't care what color man Rachel picks. I want her to pick someone that she has chemistry with and who treats her well and is genuine and that she's actually really feeling. I mean, this is a dating reality show. Most of the bachelors and bachelorettes that hook up don't get married, and the ones that do end up divorced. I won't feel any sort of way if Rachel doesn't pick a black man. I don't think black women are obligated to date black men any more than I feel black men are obligated to date black women. I think you should date, be in love with, marry someone that you find compatible and who does it for you, who you're attracted to. I don't think that there has to be a color on that. I chose to marry a black man. I do believe in black love, but I don't believe in forcing a black woman to choose a black man as some sort of political statement on a TV show. So if she picks a white guy, I won't care one way or another. And to be quite honest, of the guys on the show, there are 4 black guys in the house, and only one of them do I see any sort of potential with, and that's Will. And of the guys that I really like in the show, Will is not in my top 3. I know some of my readers are very adamant about a black woman should be with a black man, and I respect those feelings. I just don't agree with them. The other issue I wanted to address up front is the racism on the show. There have been a lot of microaggressions on the show, and most of them annoying, but not too harmful. But last week, Lee, who is a known racist, described a black man in the house, Kenny, as being quote unquote aggressive. And it's a dog whistle word when it's used to describe black men. And describing black men as aggressive, as Will thoughtfully and rightfully pointed out this episode, has been used to justify a lot of mistreatment and violence and killing of black men. I'm glad that it was finally addressed on this episode, but I think it is deplorable, really, for the show to use this undercurrent of racism as a storyline. Microaggressions and racism are very hurtful. It is a trigger for most of the brown and black viewing audience. That they've missed the mark in such a way, it's really a fail on the Bachelorette's part. So that's that. In the house, Rachel is still having one-on-ones. She's canoodling with Brian, and they're going back and forth about, I can't believe you exist. You're too good to be true. And he's like, no, you're too good to be true. They're just so into each other, and they have such physical chemistry. And Rachel really lights up around him. She really enjoys being with him. And this has been from day one, since Brian pulled her aside and said, you know, I'm trouble. I was very wary of Brian in the beginning. I still got my good third eye on him, but he's winning me over bit by bit. He's not involved in the drama in the house. He really does seem very into Rachel. He's very attentive. Their physical chemistry can't be denied. I like Brian. I really do. I'm kind of team Brian. He's moved into my top 3. Elsewhere in the house, the guys are arguing. Kenny has been informed of Lee's recent round of shenanigans about him. He went back and told Rachel some other crazy things. And Kenny confronts Lee again. He asks to speak to him outside. And everyone else knows this isn't going to go well, but Kenny is trying. He speaks to Lee. He takes the bass out his voice. He speaks to him very calmly. And he basically says, I see right through you. I see that you're a snake. I thought we were friends. I see otherwise now. I see what you're up to, and I'm not playing these games with you. Lee continues to try to gaslight him. He pretends he doesn't know what he's talking about. He tries to overtalk Kenny, and then when Kenny gets upset, to his credit, he keeps his composure. But Lee is just he likes making a mess of things. Like, it brings him pleasure. There's nothing really Kenny can do about it. Rachel comes back in to sit with the guys, and she is going to give a rose to someone so she can have a one-on-one date. And no surprise, she gives it to Brian. And the only thing I thought about that was what took so long, because that's clearly who you're most attracted to and most interested in the house. So I'm very much looking forward to their date. Up next, Rachel has a one-on-one with Jake, and I've never paid attention to him in the house. I didn't even know there was someone named Jake. He and Rachel start off their date with a carriage ride. They're sitting, you know, up under each other, but I just don't see any chemistry. They go eat oysters first, then that goes by pretty quickly, and then they go dancing. And Jake, bless his heart, he can't dance at all. And I'm not saying that because he's white. There are absolutely white men with rhythm. Jake, unfortunately, is not one of those white men. And then they have no chemistry. It was kind of painful, and I thought maybe he was awkward and it took him a while to warm up, but later in the date, he tries to kiss her, and Rachel's like, no, I'm sick, I'm contagious. Is she really sick, or is she just don't want to kiss him? Because I ain't see the girl cough, I ain't see her sneeze, her nose didn't look red, at no point did she reach for a Kleenex. I think she really didn't want to kiss that man. But they still have dinner to go to. I'm actually rooting for the guy, because he's attractive, he seems like a nice guy, and he spends all his time talking about how much chemistry he and Rachel have. Where? What chemistry are you seeing? Even at dinner, when he's sitting there talking to Rachel, Rachel was giving him the very polite smile. Rachel was clearly not into him, which he was not picking up on at all. Rachel tries to engage him a little better, and she's like, so hey, why don't you tell me about if we were back in Dallas, where would you take me? What would you like to do? This fool was like, I would just like to lay in bed with you and talk. Sir, you have no imagination, no hobbies, no personality. Pick a struggle, because you have too many. So Rachel finally is just enough. She says to him, I think you're a really great person, which is code word for I'm completely and utterly not interested. And it's such a shame, because going into the date, Rachel was really into him. She was saying that he looks great on paper. They're around the same age. I think they're both lawyers. They both live in Dallas. So she really had high hopes, and he just dashed all of them. She tells him that she's really not interested. She doesn't want to mislead him. She doesn't want to waste his time. But this is what she's thinking, and this is where she is. And she thinks it's best if they're just friends. And he just sits there. It was me, or y'all cringed at home too. Ooh, it was uncomfortable. Like, I kept looking away from the screen. Finally, Rachel asked, well, can I walk you to the door? I understand why you're single. The upside of the date with Jake is that it's given Rachel some clarity. She knows what she wants out of the men in the house, and she's determined to let go of anyone that she doesn't see a real possibility with. She calls off the cocktail party that's supposed to happen with the guys later that evening, and she's going straight to the rose ceremony. She sends Iggy home, and right before he gets sent home, Iggy is like, I hope she eliminates the drama from the house. Sir, you are the drama in the house. Bye. And then the other guy that gets sent home is Tickle Monster. Your job description was Tickle Monster. And even when he's leaving, he tickles Rachel, which I just found so utterly creepy. After Rachel kicks the guys out the house, she has a big announcement. They're going to take an international trip, and they are going to Oslo, Norway. I had no idea Norway was that beautiful. Rachel's first mission in Oslo is to get some one-on-one time with Brian. Their date is going to be on the Holmenkollen ski drop in Oslo. It's 187 feet up in the air, and they're going to go rappelling downward. I have never heard of rappelling in my life before today. In short, it's you tie yourself to a rope and work your way down to the ground. Rachel's very scared. Brian is just confident and calm about everything. They're going down, and Rachel's sort of freaking out a little bit, and Brian is just a guiding light. He's like instilling confidence into her. He's telling her she can do it, and he's just over there looking calm like it's the easiest thing in the world. They're still like 100 feet up in the air, and Brian's like, let's have a kiss. So then they start making out at 100 feet up in the air. I had to catch myself. I didn't even realize I was doing it, but I'm gazing at the screen with this big stupid smile on my face because I'm just like loving the romance of it all. I adore Brian. Brian is the work of the Lord. He is a beautiful, beautiful man. And Rachel has such chemistry with him, and they can't keep their hands off each other. As soon as they get down to the ground, they make out again. Rachel starts talking about Brian in her confessional, and she says, when I see him, I see forward. which is a huge, huge statement to make about somebody. Come to find out, Brian feels the same way. When they go to dinner, he tells her that he thinks he's falling in love with her, which is a really, really big thing to say. Rachel's very skeptical about him. How can you be this amazing and be like 37 with a really great job and single? Like, why hasn't anyone snatched you up yet? There's got to be something I'm not seeing yet that is causing people to run off, because otherwise every woman that you meet should be like clamoring for you. So Rachel announces that it's time for the group date. She invites all the guys in the house except for Kenny and Lee, who she's going to do a 2-on-1 with later in the episode. The group date is a game of handball. It's kind of like basketball meets soccer. Another thing that I've never heard of before. Will is just in beast mode. Like, he's up and down the court, he's scoring, he's a very athletic man. He is a tall drink of water. The guys have a really good time. Rachel seems to have a really good time. Back at the house, Kenny is FaceTiming with his daughter, and she's the cutest little thing, and he misses her so much. He starts crying while they're FaceTiming. Elsewhere in the house, Lee is lifting weights while wearing cowboy boots. He is just peculiar. I think that's what the old people would call him. He is a peculiar, racist man. Back at the house, Rachel has cocktail hour with the guys. The guys are really going all out today, except Josiah. He's talking to Rachel and he's just laying it on thick, just compliment after compliment after compliment, but he's not asking her anything about herself, and he's not telling her anything about himself. And Rachel is like, hey, let me give you a chance. Let me stop you and tell you what I actually like. I want you to get to know me. I want you to ask me questions about myself. I want you to tell me things about yourself. You seem to be very enamored with what you've read about me in magazines, but you're not getting to know me. And Josiah says, okay, and then just goes right back to what he's doing. I would not be surprised if Josiah was let go at the upcoming rose ceremony. I hope he can pull it together, because I think he's really cute, and I'm just very selfish and would like to see his cute face on my TV screen, but he's a little lacking in substance. So Peter. Rachel has some one-on-one time with Peter, and it seems with the other guys, when they have one-on-one time, it's a very set amount of time. It's very short. The guys seem to get to the point really quickly. That could be editing or such. But Rachel's spending time with Peter. Peter's like, hey, why don't we take it outside onto the patio? They have a kiss. Rachel suggests, why don't we take it to the hot tub? So she and Peter get in the hot tub. They have a full-on makeout session. Eventually, Peter returns to the guys, and the guys are like, where you been? Because it's been 3.5 hours. I'm not even sure if he's exaggerating or not. Rachel comes back in all dried off and looking very polished once again. It's time to give out a rose. She gives the rose to Will, not the guy whose tongue was just down her throat and whose hands were all over her like 10 minutes prior. She's like, oh no, my rose is gonna go to Will. You were great out there on the court today. And Peter's like, what? He really looked a little, like, genuinely hurt. It's time for the 2-on-1 date with Kenny and Lee, and surprisingly, it goes much better than I thought it would. For now. Last week, the previews for this week's episode showed Kenny with a big gash over his eye. We don't get to see it this episode. What we do get to see is Kenny and Lee leave with Rachel, and they get on a helicopter and they fly out to the Norwegian wilderness. You notice when they got off the helicopter, Rachel has a scarf. She has a coat with the fur on the hood, and the guys are just walking around in long sleeve shirts. What is the temperature? Obviously, Kenny and Lee are the last people that want to spend any time together, but they both say that they're focused on Rachel. Rachel asks if she can have one-on-one time with Kenny. They go off together. I like Kenny. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's corny. I love that he loves his daughter. I think he's very nice. I think he'll make an excellent partner for the right woman, but I don't think that woman is Rachel. He opens up to her, and the theme of the night is vulnerability. Then he takes a turn for the left, and he tries to explain the situation with Lee. He's very honest about what's going on. He leaves out the most salacious parts, but he gets most of the details right. Rachel hears him out. Kenny's like, if we can't be honest with one another, what's the point? Rachel agrees. So she takes Kenny back, and then she decides to go off with Lee. Lee just lies, just blatant lies. Like, he's talking about Kenny pulled him out of a van. And when she talked to Kenny, she told him that she trusts him and she thanks him for his honesty. She didn't say that to Lee. Rachel's frustrated because she's like, I came out here to have a good time. I didn't want to be lawyer Rachel today, but now I'm forced to get to the bottom of this. She calls Kenny back over again. They are freezing. They are absolutely freezing. They are shivering out there. It's time to take these people indoors. You can't have two black people out here in the cold like this. We do not do cold very well at all. When Rachel goes to talk to Kenny, he got a leather jacket from somewhere. Like he was like, I'm not trying to be freezing and cute out here. I'm cold. She tells him what Lee said. And Kenny is just dumbfounded. Kenny is not perfect. Kenny is corny. But Kenny is not lying. It's so painful to watch him try to prove himself because there's no proof. It's just he said, he said. Rachel says, I just wanted you to know, and that's all I can give you. She doesn't really give him any assurances about how she feels one way or another. Kenny walks off and he just has that devilish laugh. You know how sometimes you're so mad all you can do is laugh? He's in the laugh phase of that. Like he's just so blown by what is happening and he doesn't know what to do. So he just starts laughing. And if I was Lee, I would get far away from that man, because when people start doing that little cackle, that's right before they bust somebody in the face. It would behoove Lee to stop antagonizing Kenny. This is another episode that ends with a to be continued. We'll see part 2 literally tonight. As of right now, I don't even have a top 5, honestly. I have a top 3, and in that top 3 is Alex, the honest Russian, who pees in the pool and sends classy pictures of his penis. Brian, I like Brian. Dean, because Dean, he's a little young, but Dean came through last week. And Will's the only sensible black guy in the house, but really I have a top 3 and I think Will's a nice guy, but I don't think he's the right match for Rachel. That's my, I don't know, my pro-black charity pick. The reason I don't have a top 5 is because I'm off team Josiah. Sorry. But let me know what you thought of the episode. Let me know who's in your top 3 or top 5 if you had it. What you thought of tonight's episode. I'm going to try to recap the episode that airs tonight. Just to be totally transparent with you, I'm traveling. I have a very busy day and a very busy week coming up. So I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to recap tonight's episode in full. I'm going to try. But please don't hate me if I miss an episode. And yeah. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow.